The movie begins with Chloe Steele, a young college student arriving at JFK Airport in New York. She calls her mother, Irene, from the lobby and says she'll be home soon. She asks to speak with her father, but Irene says he isn't there. It becomes clear that Chloe came to New York for her father's birthday, hoping the whole family could celebrate together. But her pilot father, Rayford, had to suddenly go to London. Sad about the news, she asks her mother to check which flight he'll be on. Irene then gives her the flight number, and Chloe realizes the plane will depart from JFK Airport. So she decides to wait in the waiting area, wanting to talk to her father before he leaves. Going to the waiting area, Chloe sees Cameron Williams, the same guy who made the house wax. If you want, I can even bring the summary here on the channel. Cameron Williams is a famous TV presenter nearby. He's surrounded by people, including a middle-aged woman with a book in her hand. Since he's a journalist who usually talks about various disasters, she asks if he reads the Bible. Cameron guesses that she's religious and jokes saying that he reads it, but not as much as she does. The woman smiles and says that Matthew 24, verse 7, a passage from the Bible, talks about how famines, disasters, and wars are all signs. But before she can finish, Chloe interrupts. She asks the woman that if God knew about all these bad things, why didn't he stop them? The woman answers that God created the earth to be perfect, but it's humans' fault that it's now a mess. Not accepting this general answer, Chloe says that many innocent people who did nothing wrong also suffer. She then says it's nonsense to believe that God loves all humans when he doesn't help in times of wars and famines. Hey, what would you do if many people disappeared from Earth mysteriously? The movie I'm going to summarize is called Left Behind. It's a film that mixes action, drama, fantasy, mystery, science fiction, and suspense. It's a film with a very interesting approach. But before getting into the summary, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and leave a like to receive the best recaps. When the woman has no answer, Chloe walks away a little embarrassed by her sudden outburst. And it's clear that the young student doesn't believe in God. Outside, Captain Rayford arrives at the airport parking lot in his car. He sees a young flight attendant, Hattie Durham, then quickly removes his wedding ring and goes to her. Hattie doesn't know he's married, and there's a clear attraction between them. They then enter the airport waiting room together. Meanwhile, Cameron is impressed by Chloe's questioning of blind faith in religion. He approaches her at the airport cafe and the two start talking. Cameron thanks her for saving him from the religious woman, calling her crazy. But Chloe says she was just rehearsing for her mother, who is also a religious nut. She then explains she's waiting for someone, which makes Cameron think she has a boyfriend. This makes him a bit uncomfortable, and he tries to leave the conversation, but she says she's actually waiting for her father. At that moment, she sees her father arrive at the waiting area, walking close to a beautiful flight attendant. Rayford also sees her and awkwardly tells Hattie he'll join her soon. He then goes to Chloe, and father and daughter hug. Soon after, Rayford sees Cameron nearby and recognizes him as the famous TV presenter. He asks if they're dating, but Chloe says no. The journalist then apologizes, saying he has important things to do. After that, Chloe and Rayford sit down to talk. It's clear that Rayford didn't know she was coming to New York. When Chloe says she wanted to celebrate his birthday at home with the whole family, he says it's too late to cancel the flight. The two then talk about Irene, who has become very religious lately. It turns out that both father and daughter can't stand hearing preaching all the time. Irene's faith and the way she talks about religion have become so annoying to the others in the family that Chloe rarely comes home, while Rayford prefers to stay as busy as possible. After a quick conversation, Chloe asks why he was walking so close to the flight attendant. But Rayford changes the subject and says everything is fine between him and her mother. He then gives her the car keys and says he needs to board. After that, he says goodbye and goes to join Hattie, who is waiting for him. A few minutes later, Cameron approaches Chloe again, who is still at the cafe. He asks if everything is okay, and she says she's sad she can't spend time with the whole family. The two then talk a little about religion and how people still look for good things even in bad times. Soon after, Cameron gives his number to Chloe and leaves, as he is also going to London. He's on the same flight that Captain Rayford will pilot. In the next scene, Chloe arrives home and finds her mother and younger brother. They start talking, but the mother soon changes the subject to God. She explains how she prayed for Chloe to return, and God answered her prayers. But this only irritates Chloe, and she quickly leaves. Her younger brother goes after her, and they decide to go to the mall. Elsewhere, Captain Rayford enters the plane and soon begins to flirt with Hattie. With departure time approaching, he goes to the cockpit, where his co-pilot wishes him a happy birthday. Inside the plane, a short man tries to put his luggage in the overhead compartment. A Middle Eastern man stands up and offers to help, but the shorter man starts shouting back. He says that just because he's short doesn't mean he needs help he didn't ask for. Shortly after, the flight takes off for London. Meanwhile, at the mall, Chloe tells her brother that she met their father at the airport in the morning. She lies, saying that Rayford talked a lot about him and loves him very much. She then hugs her brother, saying he'll be a great baseball player one day. But during this emotional moment, the boy suddenly disappears into thin air. Only his clothes and bag remain, falling to the floor. A confused Chloe looks around and sees that the same thing happened to all the children and some adults in the mall. The scene then shifts to the plane, where exactly the same thing happened. All the children disappeared, and some adults, including the co-pilot, vanished, leaving their clothes behind. This frightens the passengers, and some men run to the cockpit wanting answers. But Rayford increases the pressure in the cabin and makes the oxygen masks drop. This forces everyone to quickly return to their seats. Now that he is the only pilot on the plane, Rayford tells everyone to fasten their seatbelts and put on their oxygen masks. He then tries to talk to the control tower via radio to ask for help, but can't talk to anyone. Although he doesn't know it yet, several people in the control tower have also disappeared without a trace. He picks up his cell phone and tries to call home, but no one answers. Back at the mall, Chloe is frantically searching for her brother. As she looks at his clothes, a driverless car suddenly crashes through the front window. This causes total chaos inside the mall, and to make matters worse, thieves start stealing money from the people who disappeared. After a while, a confused Chloe flees the increasingly dangerous environment and goes to the parking lot. But even here, the situation seems to be the same, with many people looking for their missing relatives. Just as Chloe goes to her father's car, a small plane crashes on top of it. Frightened, she runs down the street where she sees a school bus crashing right in front of her. Chloe runs to help, but realizes the bus is empty. Inside the plane, Rayford normalizes the pressure when everyone is back in their seats. He goes to where the passengers are and reassures them, saying that at this time, panic will only make things worse, and explains that he will find out what's happening, because he doesn't know if this is just on the plane. The passengers then remove their oxygen masks and begin to discuss what could have happened to the others. Ideas of alien abduction, wormholes, and that the passengers simply became invisible are mentioned. Meanwhile, Chloe finally realizes that the entire city is a mess. Although she doesn't know what happened, she thinks her brother might have been taken to the nearby hospital. So she runs to the local hospital and enters through the back door amid the confusion. To her horror, she discovers that the room where newborn babies stay is completely empty. A nurse then appears and says that all hospitals in the country are going through the same thing. This means that probably all the children in the world have disappeared. On the plane, Rayford decides to return to New York. After a while, he sees that there's a plane approaching. He tries to contact the pilot of the plane, but there's no one in it. Rayford asks everyone to sit down and put on their belts, and raises the plane to try to avoid a collision. With a lot of luck mixed with skill, Rayford escapes by a very narrow margin, just brushing the wing, saving them by a hair's breadth. Elsewhere, Chloe returns home and discovers that her mother has disappeared. When she tries to use the satellite phone, she discovers a call from her father when he was trying to contact the plane before the crash. This makes her deduce that he also died. Without her family, she is very sad, not knowing what to do. In the next scene, Rayford discovers that his co-pilot had a watch that said John 3, verse 16. He also discovers that the other flight attendant, who also disappeared, had Bible study notes in her notebook. This makes him suddenly realize something, and he remembers how his wife used to talk about a Bible event called the rapture. In this event, all people who believed in God, along with children who are too young to purposely reject God, would disappear from earth and be taken to heaven. She was right. The rapture happened. which is why all who believed disappeared, while those who didn't believe stayed. After that, Rayford tries to be honest with Hattie about being married, but she doesn't like hearing this. In the passenger section, Cameron sees liquid coming out of one of the wings, and it soon catches fire. Frightened, he runs to the cockpit and tells Rayford. They realize it's a fuel leak, and they're in serious trouble. Back in New York, Chloe enters her mother's church looking for answers. She finds a pastor, who explains that this is the rapture, and that all who disappeared went to heaven. Moreover, those who didn't believe and are now trapped on Earth will have to face several years of darkness before being judged by God. This makes Chloe very angry, as expected, and she says that the pastor himself was left behind, which means he didn't believe in the words he preached. Elsewhere on the plane, Rayford tells Cameron, who is now in the co-pilot's place, that the fire near the wing will go out sooner or later, but the leak will leave them with just enough fuel to return to New York. However, they have even bigger problems, as he hasn't been able to talk to anyone in the control tower at JFK Airport. Desperate to know about his family, Rayford asks Cameron to call his daughter. To his surprise, the journalist says he's been trying to do that for the past few hours. It's clear that he's fallen in love with Chloe. After a while, Rayford finally manages to talk to someone at the control center, but the person explains that the airport is full of debris and he doesn't know where the plane will be able to land. Trying to find a solution, Rayford asks to speak with LaGuardia Airport, which is also in New York. But the person on the radio says that all airports in the world are going through this strange and sudden confusion. This worries Rayford, and he realizes that the situation is more serious than he thought. Even so, he decides to go to JFK and somehow try to land the plane, as this is the safest option now. Next, Cameron goes to the passenger section, where a woman is pointing a gun at several people, demanding that they explain what's happening. It's clear that she's the wife of a famous American football player, traveling with her young daughter who disappeared while she slept. Blinded by fear, she accuses everyone of having kidnapped her daughter. Fortunately, Cameron manages to calm her down and make her talk about why she thinks everyone is conspiring against her. The woman ends up breaking down and says that her husband is a bad person who frequently accuses her of trying to take their daughter away from him. Now, with the child missing, she will have to face possible mistreatment from him. At this moment, another passenger, a woman with sunglasses and needle marks on her arm, suddenly stands up. She talks about the Bible event called the Rapture, where all the people who disappeared are taken to heaven. However, she doesn't know anything else beyond that. Elsewhere, a worried Chloe fears that her father's plane may also have crashed. As her mother and brother have also disappeared, she sees no more reason to continue living. So, she climbs to the top of the Manhattan Bridge and decides to end it all. On the other hand, Cameron returns to the cockpit and sits in his place. He finally manages to talk to Chloe, who is about to do something foolish. Fortunately, she stops when she sees the call and quickly answers. Chloe starts crying and thanks him for calling at exactly the right time. Cameron then passes the phone to Rayford, who apologizes to his daughter and says that her mother was right. He then explains that the plane is running out of fuel and he doesn't know if he'll be able to land safely. With a new will to live, Chloe tells her father that she will find a place for the plane to land. She quickly descends from the bridge and arrives at a construction site near the highway. Using a pickup truck that was nearby, she removes all the barriers from the site so that the plane has enough space to land. She then calls Rayford, who asks her to illuminate the entrance of the landing strip so he can see it from the plane. Having a brilliant idea, Chloe uses fuel from a crashed tanker truck and lights a big fire. This is enough for Rayford to see the construction site runway, and he skillfully directs the plane towards it. The fuel runs out. Rayford Steele told the passengers that whoever believes in God, now is the time to pray. Rayford, with great difficulty, manages to land the plane, and a bumpy landing that breaks the landing gear, but the plane stops safely. In the final scene, all the passengers exit the plane relieved. Rayford apologizes to Hattie, who forgives him. Buck says the worst is over. However, Chloe says their problems have just begun as she hugs her father tightly. And so the movie ends. Tell me in the comments if you think you would ascend or stay on Earth like they did. And don't forget to tell me what rating you give this movie. Don't forget to turn on the bell to be notified of new recaps. So see you next time.